Welcome. In this video, we're going to do several of the exercises together that I most commonly give out to my clients. I'll go through the exercises as I would be doing them myself, and many of them I do commonly do. So things you'll need for this video are a place where you can be against the wall, a chair, preferably with no arms. If you have a set of dowel sticks or walking sticks, they can be helpful, but not absolutely necessary. You can also use a wall or a corner or a countertop to do the exercises that we're going to do. I use a 4-inch dowel that's 1 inch in diameter, and then I also put little non-skid rubber tips on both ends. A set of yoga blocks would also be helpful, but not absolutely necessary to follow along. So let's start out by stretching just a little bit for our inner thighs. We're not going to do a lot of deep, heavy stretching because you want to save that for after your workout, but you do want to loosen things up. So just put your legs more than hip width apart, however far apart feels right for you at this moment. And that can change all the time, right? And then we're just going to shift back and forth. So we're keeping the knees back over the heels, and we're really sticking our tush out behind us, and we're just shifting back and forth to warm up the hips and stretch out the inner thigh, which is a place where so many women get tight in our culture because we are taught to put our legs together. So just a little shifting back and forth. Oh, another thing you'll need for this workout with me today is a yoga strap. You could use a piece of stretchy exercise band, but a yoga strap I think works better. So just a little more, getting a little bit deeper. And you always want to stay within a pain-free range for this workout as well. Okay, now let's just open the arms. Just let the arms swing a little bit. And then the first thing we'll need is that strap and the chair. Okay, so I am going to do for my strap. So hopefully you have a strap that you can adjust to the width of your legs. So I normally like to keep mine at that width. Okay, so go ahead and sit down in your chair for just a moment and place the strap through your legs and around your thighs. So we're going to snug the strap up until it's about hip width, until we can press our legs into the strap, and then if they're about hip width apart. Tie the extra loose ends of mine up here so they don't get in my way. We're going to use the strap at this width again later in the video, so take the time to get it just right. If you need to pause the video to do that, go ahead and do that. Okay, so we're going to sit back. Well, let's go ahead and stand up. Okay, we're not actually going to sit in the chair. We're going to back up toward the chair until you feel the chair on the backs of your legs. And the purpose for that is, I see a lot of people squat like this. They go straight down, they let the knees come way forward over the toes. I want you to learn how to squat when you're sitting back, and you're really letting the tailbone lead the motion of the squat. So we're keeping our legs pressing gently into the strap as we go up and down to retrain the knees to stay forward, or maybe even a little bit out. The feet are pointing straight forward. The knees are pointing straight forward. You're feeling the leg on the back of your chair, and then you're keeping your upper body as upright as you can as you go down. So think about it. You're trying to sit really far back into that chair. Having the chair there also lets you feel a little bit more confident about going deeper because you have something to catch you. So think about that chair just gently grazing the back of your calves as you come down and as you come up. And your arms can be soft, You can use them out in front of you to counterbalance you. If you want to add a little bit of extra, you can reach them up taller, and that will work on your shoulder range of motion. So what we're doing in this, we're just going to keep going. You don't have to go at the same pace I am, but I want you to think about this is an exercise for alignment and strength and mobility rebuilding. Think about every time you go to sit in a chair throughout the day, you're taking that opportunity to lower into that chair and control that motion. Control it down, control it up. We're just going to keep going because we're working out today, not just learning the exercise. So people often ask me, how many repetitions do I do? Well, in order to really make change in your body, you need to go until you feel, the muscles feel a little bit tired. They're a little bit fatigued. That way you know you're challenging yourself, you're challenging your body, and that's what makes change. Okay, you can take a break anytime you need to. What we're also doing with a squat like this is we're really asking for a little more mobility in the back as well, because we're sending the back into a little bit deeper lumbar curve, that lower curve in the back. Squatting is also really great for the pelvic floor, and it's good for the core as well. Great for the lymphatic system, great for the circulatory system. Squats are great for so many things. Okay, make sure your toes are soft. They really shouldn't be doing any work. Okay, I started to get a little lazy there and my knees came away from the chair. So if yours do too, just go back at it. You can start to hear, breathing a little heavier. So I'm doing some work here too myself. Okay, all right, let's come out. I'm gonna let that strap fall down. Okay, we'll put our strap aside for now, and we're going to use our poles. So another missing element I frequently see in people my age and up is ankle mobility. And ankle strength and mobility gets lost because we just don't use it. We're either standing or sitting. We're not walking on uneven surfaces and really challenging. We don't even really do steps that often anymore, which requires a little more lifting of the foot. So you can do a quick lift or two just to get the ankle warmed up a little bit, little side to side. I've just got my heel pressing into the mat. We're going to end up doing the opposite movement, and I'm lifting the ball of it off the ground, warming it up. Okay, let's do the other side. We'll lift up and down a few times, and then side to side a few times. So we're going to do some pre-jumping motions, and jumping is a skill that I know I lost as I aged, and then when I took my natural movement certification and I found out I had to jump to the height of my knees, I didn't think that would ever happen, but it did. It is something that you can retrain in your body. So we're going to do something that is preparing you for jumping. We're not going to jump in this video, it's just preparation. So find your hips, your feet right underneath your hips, and then just hold your poles lightly. If you don't need the poles, you don't need to use the poles. So we're going to keep the knees slightly bent during this exercise, so make sure the knees aren't going forward. You're really bending the knees in the same way that we just did the squats. Okay, so we're going to bring all the weight into the balls of the feet for this exercise, and all we're going to do is shift the heels and the hips one side to the other. So we're pivoting as we come on to the balls of the feet. We're pivoting back and forth. Change to the side so you can kind of see. Pivot. Now, every time that you land, I want you to think about finding your stability. If you go back and forth too quickly, you can get really unstable. So find your stability before you make your next move. Okay, if you don't need the poles, don't use the poles. But they are there to help you find your stability and to recreate this movement. So we're working on quick movements with the feet, asking the feet to do something really different than what they're used to doing. That way, when we need them to respond quickly because we just stumbled over something, then we've got a better chance of our ankles doing what they need to do for us. So we're just going to keep going. You go at your pace. If you need to recenter yourself now and then, recenter yourself. If you want a little bit more challenge, you can bring the feet a little closer together. Or you can bring your feet a little bit farther apart. Start, if you're still struggling or learning the coordination for the underneath the hips, then stay underneath the hips. And then vary as you watch this video another time. Okay, I'm gonna go a little bit longer because I'm kind of starting to feel it in my ankles. I'm barefoot a lot. I do a lot without my shoes on, so you're probably gonna fatigue sooner than I am on this one. So you can pause the video and keep going as much as you need to. Okay, so we went from side to side. Now we're gonna do turning the toes in and the heel, well, turning the heels away because we're keeping the balls of the feet planted. Heels out, heels in, heels out, heels in. And use your poles if you need to. I'm gonna turn to the side, heels out, heels in. The butt is always out. And the reason that the butt's out and the knees are bent, now don't do this motion with me, but if we were actually gonna jump, we would want the butt to go out. Okay, so heels out, heels in, heels out, heels in. Find your stability. Every time those heels land, feel that stability before you ask your body to do the next position. Okay, you can always go out wider. Heels out, heels in, heels out, heels in. Something else I notice in a lot of women, and men sometimes too, is the knees are rotated differently. So one knee might be really rotated in and the other might be straight on as it's supposed to be. And that comes from a habit of always crossing one leg over the other. Other things could feed into it, but that's what I most commonly see. Okay, all right, definitely can feel that, that's great. Okay, so one way that you can upgrade that particular motion is to actually, a little bit from the side, I'll show you. Okay, I'm gonna do heels side to side. You can actually come off, barely off the floor. So the balls of the feet are just barely coming off the floor and you're actually doing a little baby jump. A little baby jump. So really make sure those knees stay back if you're gonna try that particular one. Okay, let's see. Let's go to the dragon stretch on the floor. So you may want to move your chair off of your mat. So the dragon stretch on the floor, you can do this one on a step stool, which I don't have in here. Don't have my step stool in here, but let's do it on the floor, but know that you can do it. Maybe I'll demonstrate it on the chair. Let's do that. So if you want to grab a step stool or you want to use your chair, that's fine. I would use the poles to get started on this one. So let's take the one foot up on the chair. I'm going to put my right foot on the chair, and then my other foot is going to provide some stability back here. My poles will be forward, and then I'm just going to gently lean into the chair and press back, or the stool. In your case, I would recommend a stool. A chair can be too high for starters. So I'm just going to go back and forth, gently leaning into it to see what your range of motion is. Now you could be limited in several places in this particular exercise. You might be limited by how far your hip flexor can move on the side that's on the ground. You might be limited by the hip on the side where you have your foot forward, the mobility of that hip. You could be limited by the knee. You could be limited by the ankle. So noticing and paying attention to what's happening in your body as you do the exercise, gently pressing into it and stopping wherever you feel limited, never moving into any pain. So slowly going back and forth. I feel my limitation right now in my hip, my supporting hip. At first I'm trying to keep my heel down in the back. And I'm just leaning into it. If I go a little bit too deep and I can't push back, I can use my hand on my pole to help me back. Eventually I'm going to get deeper and deeper. So I'm challenging my range of motion. I'm challenging my strength. Okay, I'm going to go a little bit longer on this side. You can stay in it just a little bit at the end to stretch, breathe. If you stay in it a little bit too long or go a little bit too deep, again, use the poles and the strength in your arms to press yourself out of it. Use your feet, but you can assist with your arms. All right, let's switch to the other side. Slowly lean into this, exploring where the limitations are. And I feel more limited in my front of my hip now, just like the other side. And that's a really important movement, the ability for that leg to go back. That we'll see this in the bird dog. I also want you to think about, as you come forward, that the hips stay pointing forward, that the right, whatever hip is back and supporting you isn't rotating. So you're not rotating the hips, keeping them pretty straight on as you lean into this exercise. So good for hip, knee, ankle mobility. I love this one so much. I actually keep a set of poles in my living room, so I can stand up and do this one at commercials or randomly throughout the day if I feel stiff. Okay, we'll do a few more of these. And then we'll do a little bit, we'll save our deeper on the floor dragon stretch, I think, for the end. So this is similar to the dragon stretch in yoga, but we're making a mobility exercise out of it. Okay. All right, for now, we're going to put these aside. Tuck them over here for now. We're going to go to the wall. So in the wall, we're going to start with a wall bird dog exercise, and then later we'll do it on the ground. So finding yourself a little more than arm's length away, and then thinking about lifting first the right leg. So try not to turn the hips, just lift the leg. Make sure that you can hold that hip stable. Then try the left side. See if you're turning. We don't want to turn. Keep the hips pointing towards the wall and then lift the toes up and down. Okay, as we do these, if you're having trouble keeping the hips stable, then just do the legs. Okay, let's go back to the right legs. You can touch that toe. Keep the right hand on the wall and lift the left arm. Then lift them together. I feel a stretch in the front of my body and I feel my core being engaged. So you can add to that by actively not sucking in, but squeezing the muscles in your core. Because we want to teach the muscles around the spine to stabilize the spine while we use our arms and legs. Okay, let's go to the other side. Left toe out, right hand lift. We'll lift everything. Breathe while you're here, shoulders are soft. So if bird dog at the wall is challenging, then you may not want to do bird dog. I'll still ask you to go down into that all fours position and do some beginner movements, but you won't be able to do the full bird dog on the floor correctly, safely, if you're challenged by the wall. So as you come out, each time you lift each side, find that stability, soften what you don't need, and hold. Okay, we're going to keep going together just a little bit longer. And a reminder, there's no magic formula other than what you're feeling in your body. There's no magic number. Okay, if you feel like you could go a little bit farther from the wall, go a little bit farther from the wall. Creates a little more challenge. My chair's in the way. All right, let's come back up. We'll shake out our arms a little bit. We're going to do another exercise against the wall. So we all know plank. Okay, so in plank, you want to make sure that your hips aren't sagging down, that you're not in an angle but this is actually a really good hamstring stretch to do it this way. Just make sure you're finding your low back curve. If you want to pause, let's pause and get a hamstring stretch. Why not? Feels good. So keep the knees straight, hinge from the hips. Make sure you've got that low back scooped out. Shoulders are soft. All right, that feels good. Okay, let's come back into our plank. So in the plank, the shoulders to the ankles should be a nice long line. You should have your low back curve in place. No tucking the tailbone. That tailbone should be a little bit angled. So I'm just doing a little bit of a push-up. As you do that push-up, think about the pits of the elbows being rotated toward the ceiling. You can be on your heels or a little bit on your balls of your feet. I would suggest being on your heels to start with. Rotate the elbow pits up so that when you bend your elbows, the elbows go toward the ground. Okay, and then we'll just do some little baby push-ups. Just go down a ½ inch, an inch, 2 inches, whatever feels right for you. If it feels too much, step a little closer to the wall. Start wherever your body feels safe. When your body feels safe, you're going to more easily be able to go into the exercises. If your body doesn't feel safe, you will not be able to do them smoothly. Your body will resist what your head is asking it to do because it doesn't feel safe. If you have any wrist issues, you can always go to a fist against the wall. Okay, we're going to modify this exercise a little bit more in order to recruit a little more core muscles. Getting warm doing these. Okay, so I would suggest flat hands, not fists for this. And let's start by getting a little bit closer to the wall. So about an arm's length away. All I want you to do is lean in, gently push yourself back, lift your hands, and then keep your elbows bent and feel your core kick in as your hands catch you. So I want you to notice what you're feeling in your shoulders, your upper back, and your core as you do this. And if you feel safe enough, you can think about your nose getting as close to that wall as you can. Don't push yourself so hard away that you fall backwards. Just gently push yourself back. Each time, I'm letting my heels come off the ground as I lean forward. If you feel pretty safe there, take a baby step away from the wall, and then elbows bent, lean in, catch yourself, push yourself away. Shoulders are down away from the ears. Feel your core engage when you catch yourself so that you don't sink in. Just keep going until you start to feel a little fatigue in your shoulders. So this is so great for the upper back, for the shoulders, for the core. Let's throw in another little exercise while we're here. Okay, and you can keep doing this. You can step a little bit farther away. So you can continually upgrade your exercise as your body gets stronger. Okay, let's do one more at the wall exercise, which I think is really good for the core. So we're going to get into our plank position, and then we're going to bring the knee toward the wall. I can't touch the wall with my knee, but I can definitely bring it in that direction. So this is a similar exercise to what we might do in a yoga class, where we're holding plank on the floor and trying to bring the knee toward the elbow. Let's switch to the other side. So I'm going straight toward the wall, but you want to make sure you're keeping your hips very stable and you're not twisting toward the wall. Most of us need to work more on stability of the core rather than flexibility. So now let's come a little bit across. So I'm coming forward and across as I do it. I'm keeping my hips stable. I'm not letting the hips do the work. I'm not letting the pelvis do the work. I'm letting the hip joint do the work. Okay, all right, now let's move into our next one. Let's go on the floor. So let's move our chair out of the way. And we'll need our strap back. Let's go down into the bridge exercise. So the bridge is an exercise I will frequently give out to get the glutes working again. So let's put the strap around just above the knees. Sorry, my black strap on my black pants is highly visible. So we'll bring the heels in a little bit close to the body. You can try different distances away, but a little bit closer to the body works better. Have the hands on the ground next to your hips just to provide you a little bit of stability, and you're looking up toward the ceiling. We're going to press in to our strap gently and then press down into the ground and lift the hips up as far as they will go. Really try to keep your face, your neck, your shoulders soft in this exercise. Just lift and squeeze the glutes. So a way to really turn the glutes on is to press the heels into the mat. And as soon as I did that, I felt my core turn on as well. And then gently press the heels away. So you're not trying to slide yourself. You're just pressing firmly enough that it turns the quads on a little bit more. Keep lifting, keep pressing into the mat with your heels and away from your body. And then we'll let all that be soft. Come back down. We'll lift again as high as you can lift. Gently pressing into the strap. Heels down and press away and breathe. hold this for about 3 breaths. Shoulders and face soft, and then back down. What I want you to feel is maybe even a little burning sensation in your glutes. That way you know they're working, doing something a little bit more than what you normally ask them to do. Think about squeezing the glutes, pressing the heels in gently into your strap, pressing the heels away and breathing. Hold it, lift the hips, don't let the hips drop. You even can maybe look down and make sure they're level. One hip's not dropping down. A lot of us have one side that's weaker than the other. We want to try to recreate that symmetry. And down. And then we'll lift again. Again, try to get in just enough that you can start to feel that fatigue in your glutes. Some people might need a whole lot more, some people might be done already. So you do wherever you're at, but just challenge yourself each time you do this video. Definitely feeling it. Ooh. And that's probably enough of those. Okay, let's turn over into all fours for bird dog on the ground. Okay, so the important parts of bird dog when you're on the ground, and I think it's important to do it on the wall to start with, but don't be afraid to get on your hands and knees and see how it works for you. I'm just going to move this out of my way. My chair again. Okay, so start with the knees under the hips and the arms under the shoulders. Finding your stability in this pose, making sure you've got a nice normal curve here, that you're not tucking under, and it's not overly scooped out either. You want to be in that neutral normal curve. So if you're just getting started with the bird dog on the ground, then start by just stretching one leg out, making sure you're not rotating the hips. You're keeping that very level. So imagining that you've got a bowl of water right there on your hips, and you want to keep that as stable as you can. If you can lift, great. If you have a lot of back pain, then doing one-sided lifts might be irritating your back if you're in a flare-up, so be careful with that. Always make sure that you're working in a pain-free range of motion. So just stretch one leg out at a time, find your stability, lift as far as you're able to, and still be stable. Okay, if you can add in the arm, add in the arm. Down and back. Reach and lift. Okay, I don't know if you noticed that, but in my lift, I lost my stability, so I found my stability before I kept moving. I want you to always do that too. Okay, so wherever you're at with the bird dog, challenge yourself, whether you're on the wall or whether you're on the ground, just challenge yourself appropriately. Okay, let's finish with the dragon stretch on the ground. So I like to use my blocks because they provide me a little more stability, so I can really focus on getting deeper into the stretch. So if you need a pad for your knee, I'm going to put a pad under my right knee. I don't always need it, but I think it makes me feel a little more secure. And again, when you keep your body safe and feeling secure, you can always go a little bit deeper. So in this, we're stepping pretty far forward with the opposite foot, and then we're using our blocks just to touch on, and then we're leaning forward to stretch the hip. I'm going to stretch the other side just so you can see a little bit better as we get started. So I'm taking a long step forward first, keeping my upper body upright, and then I'm leaning into it to stretch the front of the hip flexor. And again, making sure that your hips are fairly straight on and you're just going right to that edge. You don't want to overdo this because you could cause some problems. So stay on your edge where your body feels safe. So we're just going to let that hip flexor stretch out a little bit. I'm going to stay here for 3, 4, 5 breaths. If yours are really tight, you may want to stay here a lot longer or do several repetitions of this movement. Okay, I'm going to push through my blocks and through my front heel to come out of this. We're going to stay here, but this time we're going to keep the front foot quite a bit closer to the body. So you can see that I'm not even at a 90 degree with my knee. I'm a little even closer to me because this version is going to stretch the ankle and the knee in more of a compressive stretch. So we're going to lean forward again. My heel's coming off the ground. That's okay. I can feel a little bit of the stretch in the back of my calf. I'm really compressing the angle of my knee and the front angle of my ankle. My shoulders are down away from my ears. Should be in a position where you can breathe. You might not be able to go quite as deep as me. That's okay. Think about once you get in here, pressing your heel towards the floor like you're trying to get it down there, and that'll help stretch the back of the calf at the Achilles, or closer to the heel. Breathe. And then press with your hands to come out. Okay, let's go to the other side. So we'll take a longer step away first and stretch out the front of the hip. Hands can be on blocks or the knees. Breathing, shoulders down away from the ears. Use the blocks if you need or want to. You could also use your poles for this as well. Okay, we'll hold this for a few more breaths. You can hold it a lot longer. You could hold this a couple minutes. This is a pose often used in yin yoga, where poses can be held up to 10 minutes or even longer. We just want to hold them long enough to just start nudging into any fascial restrictions we might have. Okay, let's push up with our foot and our hands, then bring that front foot back, and then lean into it, letting that heel come off the ground, compressing the angle of the knee, the front angle of the ankle, then pressing that heel down towards the ground. Breathing. Press back with the blocks to come out of this one. And again, you could do that several times. I'm pretty flexible, so I don't need that one a lot. I want to just for a moment to just give you other options as you do this in the future. I'm going to pick up my poles. So we did the lunge, the modified lunge on the chair. We can do that same thing on the floor, just by leaning forward. So we're letting the knee come over past the toes on this one. Make sure you try to keep as much weight in the heels, and then press up through the heel. This is another great lunge type exercise. We're not letting that back knee come down. We're just focusing on what's happening in the ankle and the knee in the front. I like to try to keep my heel down in the back, just to add a little bonus stretch there. But press up through the heel. Okay. This is just something that you can add on later, slowly into it, just to see how it feels. Use your poles for balance or to assist you out of the depth of the stretch. It's harder to keep my heel down on this side. So we're all working on something most of the time. Our lives put a lot of stress and tension in our bodies. Our lives can shape us. We want to use strategic exercises to shape our bodies in a way that helps us be the most functional. So thank you for doing this with me today.